The Lord of the Rings is a masterpiece of filmmaking, a true lesson on what to do to bust box office records and make millions of dollars. This success was well deserved by all that took part in the creation of such modern classics, but it also had a darker side. Many film studios, seeing the success of the fantasy genre in the early 2000s, decided to try their own hand at crafting a cash cow worthy of contemplation. None of these copycats were successful to the extent that The Lord of the Rings was, though some came close in magnitude. Some people might claim that The Lord of the Rings was popular due to other films of the time, such as Star Wars The Phantom Menace and Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, and audiences simply wanted more fantasy films to soothe their growing addiction to the genre. I would argue that little precedence is set for this explanation, and that The Lord of the Rings' success is entirely due to its own merits. The Hobbit trilogy, for example, made more money than The Lord of the Rings in the box office, but failed to capture audiences the way their progenitor did. Part of this failure was due to its size and bloated nature, but much of The Hobbit could be fit into one or two movies, but Peter Jackson, perhaps feeling that a trilogy would fit better than with his other works in the fantasy genre, expanded them into a full 3 movies, as long as The Lord of the Rings. This leaves the film feeling slow as a snail at times, and rushed at others, given the horrible pacing issues brought about by the decision to lengthen the movies past what would be tenable otherwise. So many studios sought to recreate the bombastic success of The Lord of the Rings, but so few did. Why? Well, it's rather simple. They didn't invest as much effort and passion, nor money, into their attempts at a petty cash grab as Peter Jackson and the cast and crew of his movies did into their passion project. What they lacked in passion, they failed to make up for in other areas, and it shows. Earthsea, a miniseries made in 2004 to 2005, was one such attempt at making money off of The Lord of the Rings' audience, and it ended poorly for all involved. It was an utter disaster financially and critically, with audiences and professionals panning the series even as it failed to recoup production costs. It was a shining example of what not to do. Rushed storytelling, poor CGI, and costume design so jarringly bad, the lead costume designer must have been blind, deaf, and dead. Another such example of executive greed and passionless work is Eragon, whose use in this essay might make my sister hate me, but the cards are all on the table at this point. It's not the worst movie by any means, but it was clearly an attempt to recreate The Lord of the Rings for a larger demographic, and much of its value as a film is undercut by the producer's clear attempt at another soulless cash grab. There's no overstating it. The Lord of the Rings is amazing, but it could have been terrible. It could have been a petty cash grab to make money, or a passionless studio executive could have demanded Jackson rush through it to cut costs. But thanks to the efforts of both him and certain members of the cast, such as Sir Christopher Lee of Dracula fame, it succeeded where so many others did not. Passion and love for the process brought this film trilogy to where it is now. And this is evident by the way the cast members speak of the production of the film and how much fun they had while working on it. The Lord of the Rings was a great series of films, not just because of its budget or the skill of the cast and crew, though that part no doubt played a part, but because so many people were determined to see it through to the very end. In conclusion, there are many reasons that these films were considered a success, and as many reasons for the failure of others to recreate it. But what do we have to learn from this? One angle you might consider is that while imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, sometimes it's better to be original and to sink or swim by your own effort rather than rely on someone else to buoy you to success.